At 17:23 on June 5th, 2025, an Israeli F-16 pilot received a three-word message, ED Alada, time to go. Within minutes, 4 of Israel's most advanced fighter jets were poised to deliver a brazen escalation. Precision strikes against Beirut's densely populated suburbs on the eve of Islam's holiest celebration. The pilot had been strapped into his cockpit for 12 minutes, the May Pratt and Whitney F-100's engine idling as ground crews completed final weapons checks. Beneath each wing hung 2 terse, Rafael Spice 2000 DS guided bombs, 4,000 pounds of precision munitions capable of threading through a specific window from 60 kilometers away. But tonight's mission demanded something far more dangerous than long-range precision. They would have to get close enough to see their targets burn. Tonight, the F-16i Sufa was the only choice for these urban strikes. These single-engine, multi-role fighters excelled at the kind of precision work Beirut's dense neighborhoods demanded. Their superior agility allowed for rapid target transitions in cluttered airspace. More importantly, the F-16i's fuel efficiency permitted extended loiter time, critical when you needed to hold for 60 minutes while civilians evacuated. At 17:24, the formation leader advanced the throttles. The ST-100 PW-22 9-door engine responded instantly, generating over 29,000 pounds of thrust. Despite its massive payload, the heavily loaded F-16i accelerated down Ramat David Air Base's runway at 165 knots. His wingman followed 10 seconds later, then the second pair at identical intervals. By 17:26, all 4 jets were airborne, climbing through 10,000 feet in a precisely staggered formation. The mission profile demanded surgical timing. 8 targets were spread across Beirut's southern suburbs, Hadath, Haret Harek, and Burj El Barajneh, plus 2 more in South Lebanon. Each aircraft carried enough ordnance for 2 targets, meaning 0 margin for error. Miss 1 release window, abort 1 run, and the entire strike package would unravel. By 17:42, exactly 60 minutes before the first bomb would fall, Israeli military spokesman the Avichai Adrei began posting on social media. These were not encrypted military channels or diplomatic back channels, but public posts on the Twitter and hot telegrams. The warnings included satellite photos with red circles around specific buildings, telling anyone there that those buildings would be Beirut's newest parking lots in the next hour. This wasn't merely psychological warfare, it was legal compliance with a tactical twist. International law suggests warning civilians when feasible, and Israel documents every warning for potential future tribunals. But those 60 minutes created predictable patterns that military planners exploited. Traffic flows became rivers of intelligence. Which buildings emptied immediately, which saw frantic vehicle loading, which remained suspiciously calm. All of this information was valuable. The pilot stayed in a holding pattern at 28,000 feet, monitoring encrypted tactical frequencies as intelligence updates flowed from reconnaissance assets. Drone footage showed the evacuation in real time, cars fleeing certain buildings while others remained untouched, inadvertently confirming Israeli targeting intelligence. Now, all they had to do was wait 60 minutes before deploying one of Israel's most potent weapons. The Rafael Spice 2000 is hanging from each F-16's wing, represented the convergence of 3 technological revolutions in one 2,000-pound package. At $200,000 per unit, these bombs cost about as much as a G-Wagon, but unlike Mercedes-Benz, the military wasn't paying for a brand name. They were paying for what lay inside. Traditional guided bombs relied on GPS, spoofed the coordinates, and that expensive bomb couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. But the Spice 2000 was not your normal bomb. Its primary navigation used GPS. Sure, but that was just the beginning. Inside the nose section, 2 more guidance systems worked flawlessly, each backing up the others. The inertial navigation system used ring laser gyroscopes spinning at 400 Hz, precisely measuring rotation. That made Rolex look like a toy watch. 3 accelerometers tracked every movement in 3 dimensions, calculating position based on the fundamental laws of physics. No outside signals were needed, even if every GPS satellite suddenly vanished. The Porin's strength alone could put the bomb within 30 meters of its target. But the next system was where Israeli engineering got truly impressive. The electro-optical scene matching technology turned the bomb into a robot with perfect memory. During each mission planning session, operators uploaded high-resolution satellite imagery of the target area, every building, every street corner, and every distinctive feature within a square kilometer. As the bomb fell, its nose camera shot 60 frames per second, comparing what it saw to what it remembered. The processing power required was staggering. The Mach Spice's computer ran image recognition algorithms that would have required a supercomputer in the 1990s. Edge detection identified building outlines, pattern matching located specific architectural features, and contrast analysis distinguished targets from backgrounds, all while falling at 300 meters per second. And unfortunately for those below, their time was up. At 1800 hours, the holding pattern broke. 4 F-16s banked east in perfect synchronicity, descending through 20,000 feet as they accelerated toward the Lebanese coast. Beneath their bellies, the Rafael Sky Shield and electronic warfare pods woke from standby mode. Their threat libraries contained the electronic fingerprint of every radar system from there to Tehran, the Lebanese air defense network, a hodgepodge of Soviet-era systems, some French units, and recent Chinese imports lit up like a Christmas tree. The aging SP-18 spoon rest and radar at Tyre pushed out its distinctive MVH fan pulses. A more modern Chinese JY-27A south of Detonation joined the chorus. Multiple fire control radars probed the sky, searching for something to lock onto. What they found defied physics. The lead net F-16i Sufa appeared to be at 15,000 feet heading north at 350 knots. Simultaneously, it was at 25,000 feet heading east at 550 knots. A third return showed it diving through 5,000 feet. The Sky Shield first pod wasn't just jamming, it was lying with mathematical precision. Inside each pod, the digital radio frequency memory system performed electronic alchemy. When the P-18 NOSA radar pulse hit 150 megahertz on the drum, they captured it perfectly. Frequency, pulse width, modulation, everything. Then it retransmitted multiple versions, each slightly modified. Delay 1 by 3 microseconds, and the radar thinks you're 900 meters farther away. Shift the frequency by 200 hertz, and your speed looks wrong. Combine multiple false returns, and the operator's screen looks like a 4-year-old's drawing. As this continued, the pilots monitored their radar warning receivers as new threats appeared. An-Naqura 6 straight flush? Radar painted them from the Arbekere Valley. That distinctive high-pitched warble in their headsets. The Sky Shield has automatically categorized it as a priority threat, allocating more jamming power to its frequency band. The HRWR symbol changed from solid to dashed, lock broken, but the real genius happened when all 4 aircraft coordinated their jamming. The formation leader designated itself as the Lighthouse, broadcasting powerful jamming on all major threat frequencies. The other 3 ran their pods in Firefly mode, quick bursts of jamming that appeared and disappeared randomly. To the Lebanese radar operators, it looked like an entire squadron was out there, maybe 2. Ground controllers at Kiryat, Beirut Air Traffic Control, their scopes in confusion. Civilian transponders showed a Middle East Airlines flight climbing out on schedule, but military primary returns danced across their screens in impossible patterns. Ghost formations appeared from nowhere, streaked across the scope at MASH 2, and then vanished. Real contacts hid among false ones, like needles in an electronic haystack. At 1812, the F-16 has not reached the release point. The Lebanese capital spread below them. The formation split into 2 elements. The lead and his wingman vectored toward Hadath and Haret Reich. The second pair angled south toward Burj El Barajneh. Each pilot ran through the same checklist. Master arm on, weapons selected, release mode confirmed. The Martlitning Das. Targeting pods slewed to their first targets, infrared sensors cutting through the evening haze as if it didn't exist. In their headsets, the pilots heard Lebanese search radars growing more frantic. Pulse repetition frequencies increased, scatter patterns tightened. Someone down there knew something was wrong but couldn't pinpoint what. The electronic bubble held, keeping the F-16s hidden in plain sight even as they prepared to kick off the holiday festivities. By 1818, the lead pilot pickled his first Spice 2000. The bomb bay acoustic sensor registered separation, a clean release. Immediately, the F-16 lurched upward, suddenly 2,000 pounds lighter. The pilot didn't watch it fall. He was already banking toward the second target. The first Uzbekistan deployed its wing kit 2 seconds later, transforming from a falling chunk of metal into a guided projectile. Its GPS receiver locked onto 5 satellites. Excellent geometry for a precise fix. The initial solution put it 2.3 kilometers from the target with 43 seconds to impact. The flight control computer calculated an intercept trajectory: 15 degrees left turn, 8 degrees glide slope. 5 seconds later, the wingmen released over Haret Harik. His target, a nondescript 5-story commercial building that Israeli intelligence said housed drone assembly workshops in its basement. The bomb's camera activated early, catching the evacuation chaos in thermal clarity. Cars clogged every street and hundreds of heat signatures fled on foot. The building itself glowed warmer than its neighbors, evidence of underground activity generating heat. By 18:18 and 15 seconds, 4 bombs were in flight, each pursuing its own target with robotic determination. The formation leader's second weapon aimed for a Hezbollah's logistics node disguised as an auto parts store. The wingman's second release targeted what appeared to be a community center, but allegedly concealed communications equipment 3 floors underground. As the bomb descended through 10,000 feet, the camera activated. The familiar Beirut and skyline appeared. Mosque minarets, apartment blocks, the Mediterranean coastline. The computer matched these features against its memory, calculating precisely where it was. At 5,000 feet, Ox signals started getting sketchy. Lebanese electronic warfare units, likely using Russian-supplied systems, pumped out false signals to deceive the guidance system. The tanked spices a computer noticed the discrepancy immediately. GPS said it was 500 meters east of where the Inzirazan camera thought it was. Without hesitation, it ignored the AGPSRs entirely, trusting its eyes and internal navigation. The terminal phase was where the real precision came into play. At 1,000 feet, the camera switched to narrow field of view mode, zooming in on the specific building. The algorithm looked for pre-programmed features, that ventilation unit on the northwest corner, the distinctive roofline, and the shape of the adjacent parking lot. When confidence hit 98%, the bomb committed to the final approach. Those fins on the tail could deflect 20 degrees in any direction, making corrections 50 times per second. Too much crosswind from the west. The fins compensated. Thermal updraft from the city adjusted. The bomb literally flew itself to the target, threading between buildings if necessary. The fuse settings uploaded at Ramat Davidin determined what happened next. There was an impact fuse for surface targets and a delayed fuse for penetration. Tonight, it was all delayed. The bombs needed to punch deep before detonating, turning these underground facilities into tombs. Then, just before 1819 local time, the first impact was registered. The Blue 109's penetrator warhead hit the building's roof at 267 meters per second. The hardened steel case, designed initially to pierce aircraft shelters, treated the civilian structure like tissue paper. It punched through the roof slab, barely slowing. The 5th floor offices, by the look of the debris, offered no resistance. 4th floor, 3rd floor, 2nd floor, the warhead finally lodged in the basement ceiling. Then kaboom! In the confined basement space, the pressure couldn't dissipate normally. Instead, it reflected off the concrete walls, doubling and increasing intensity. The floor above, now the ceiling of a pressure chamber, lifted like a cork from a champagne bottle. The second bomb hit a few seconds later, just as the first building collapsed. Then the third, then the fourth. Shockwaves from multiple explosions met and merged, creating complex interference patterns that amplified destruction in some areas while canceling it out in others. By 1820, southern to Beirut, Eba looked like a giant had kicked over an anthill. 4 mushroom clouds rose into the evening sky, their stems growing larger from secondary explosions. The pilots didn't admire their handiwork. They were already beating feet back home, diving toward the deck as every surviving air defense system in Lebanon went active. The jamming pods worked overtime, creating false targets behind them as they sprinted for the Mediterranean and safety. But this attack was not over yet. At 1842, as smoke still rose from the Beirut southern suburbs, 2 F-15 Ram fighters approached reached the Mediterranean at 30,000 feet. These two were the second wave sent in with the big guns. Simple physics drove the choice of F-15s for this phase. When you needed to drop 5,000-pound penetrators from maximum altitude, you needed serious muscle. The F-15's twin F-100PW229 engines generated 58,000 pounds of combined thrust, essential for maintaining altitude and speed while hauling 10,000 pounds of ordnance per aircraft. The two-seat configuration proved its worth here. While the pilot managed the demanding flight profile, the weapon systems officer operated the APG-70 radar and the LANTIRN targeting pod, ensuring precise weapon delivery. These weren't the nimble F-16s that had just finished dancing over the capital. The F-15 was purpose-built for deep strike missions, a 600-kilometer combat radius, conformal fuel tanks that didn't create drag, and reinforced hardpoints rated for the heaviest ordnance in Israel's inventory. Tonight, that meant GBU-28s. Each aircraft hauled 2 GBU-28s. At 5,000 pounds each, these weren't bombs, they were telephone poles filled with explosives. The warhead case was machined from a single piece of hardened steel alloy, designed to remain intact while punching through 6 meters of reinforced concrete or 30 meters of earth. Only the F-15 had the payload capacity and high-altitude performance to deliver these monsters effectively. Tonight, they were aimed at something buried deep beneath a hillside near An-Naqura. The target represented everything Israel feared about the group's reconstruction efforts. Satellite imagery from the past 6 months showed suspicious construction activity. Dump trucks arriving full and leaving empty, ventilation shafts appearing where none should exist, and power lines running to apparently empty fields. Israeli intelligence assessed that this was a high-probability command bunker, possibly a manufacturing site, and definitely worth visiting. The F-15's APG-70 radar painted the target area in synthetic aperture mode, creating a detailed ground map despite the darkness. The weapon systems officer in the rear cockpit coordinated with the second aircraft, ensuring their releases would bracket the underground facility. At 1844, the lead F-15 began its attack run. Unlike the F-16s that released from medium altitude, the GBU-28s needed height to build penetration velocity. From 35,000 feet, it would reach nearly supersonic speed before impact, converting altitude into kinetic energy that no amount of concrete could resist. The pilot pickled both weapons in rapid sequence. 10,000 pounds of ordnance separated from the aircraft, beginning its long fall toward the Lebanese hillside. The laser guidance system wouldn't activate until the final moments. For now, GPS-E and ends as handled navigation, the bombs adjusting their trajectory with small fin movements. At 2,000 feet, the laser guidance activated. The F-15's targeting pod illuminated the precise impact point with coded laser energy. The bomb's seeker head detected the reflection and made final corrections. 3 meters left, 2 meters forward. At this speed, there was no room for error. Impact came moments later. The first GBU-28 hit the hillside at 312 meters per second. Dirt and rock offered no resistance. The penetrator bored through the earth, its hardened case designed to survive the enormous deceleration forces. 15 meters, 20 meters, 25 meters. At 27 meters depth, the bomb encountered the bunker ceiling, 2 meters of steel-reinforced concrete designed to withstand conventional airstrikes. Against the GBU-28's unfocused energy, it might as well have been cardboard. The penetrator punched through and the delay fuse counted down. Unlike the Suckspice 2000's millisecond delays, the mere GBU-28 waited a full 0.5 seconds, enough time to ensure the warhead was deep inside the target. Then, 630 kilograms of trionyl explosive detonated. In the confined space, the second GBU-28 impacted 2 seconds later, 40 meters south. Its penetration path intersected a different section of the bunker complex. When it detonated, the 2 blast zones merged underground, creating a catastrophic pressure differential. Ammunition stocks cooked off in chain reactions, and fuel supplies added their explosions to the underground inferno. But the real confirmation came from the secondary explosions. At 1845, the hillside erupted like a volcano. The ground heaved upward, then collapsed into a crater 60 meters across. What was hiding there? Weapons, equipment, personnel was now part of the geological record. Could this precision strike alter the balance of power, or is it merely a temporary setback in a conflict with deep roots?